The pregnant woman gasped for breath as the car sputtered and died on the deserted highway. Then the boy appeared from the shadows, silent but steady. Her fingers trembled on the steering wheel. She blinked away tears, trying to control the panic rising in her chest. The cold night air crept through the cracked window, carrying the distant hum of traffic that was already disappearing behind her. She was alone. No phone signal, and the baby inside her was moving faster than she'd ever felt before. Urgent, restless, almost warning her of something. The boy's dark eyes reflected the dim glow of the broken street lamp. He was thin, his clothes ragged, face smudged with dirt, but there was a calmness in his gaze that unsettled her. He looked nothing like someone who could help. Yet here he was. Need help? His voice was soft but sure. She nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. "Please, my car just died, and I'm about to have this baby. I don't know what to do." He glanced at the dashboard, then out to the empty road. No other cars, no one around for miles. "Come with me," he said, stepping back into the shadows. Desperation outweighed fear. She unlocked the door and climbed out carefully, clutching her swollen belly. Her heels clicked unevenly on the cracked pavement. He led her to an old shed, barely visible behind a thicket of trees. She followed, heart pounding as questions raced through her mind. Who was this boy? Why was he here? What did he want? The shed was cold and dark, but inside it was surprisingly clean. A single flickering lantern cast shadows against peeling wooden walls. A blanket lay folded on the floor. "Sit here," he said quietly. She lowered herself carefully, leaning back, trying to steady her breath. Pain knotted in her abdomen. "What's your name?" she whispered. "Micah." She blinked, surprised at how young he sounded. "Micah, thank you. You saved me." He shrugged, looking away. "I'm used to being invisible." She frowned. "Invisible?" Micah's voice dropped to a whisper. "People don't see me. Not really. I've been alone for a long time." She looked at him closely for the first time. The tiredness in his eyes, the hardened edge beneath. His youth. A pang of guilt twisted inside her. Here she was, wealthy and privileged, stranded and scared, and this boy had nothing but kindness. The silence stretched between them. Then, without warning, her water broke. "Help me," she gasped, panic flooding back. Micah moved quickly, gathering the blanket and a bottle of water from a dusty shelf. "Don't be afraid," he said firmly. "I've helped before. You're safe here." Her breaths came fast, pain stabbing through. Her like lightning. Minutes felt like hours, as the boy coached her through each contraction. The night was heavy with uncertainty. No ambulance, no doctor, only two strangers clinging to hope in the dark. Suddenly, a sound shattered the quiet. A car engine roaring somewhere nearby. Micah's eyes snapped toward the road. Someone's. "Coming," he said. The woman's relief was immediate but short-lived. The headlights illuminated a black SUV speeding toward the shed. "Stay here," Micah warned, stepping outside. She watched as the vehicle stopped, and a tall man stepped out. His expensive suit and polished shoes clashed with the raw wilderness around them. His face was stern, eyes scanning the area. "Are you okay?" he called out, voice sharp. Micah didn't answer. Instead, the man strode toward the shed, and the woman's heart skipped. Something about him felt dangerous. "Who is that?" she whispered. Before Micah could reply, the man pushed open the door and stepped inside. The woman blinked, stunned. "Maria," the man said quietly, but there was steel beneath the softness. "What are you doing here?" Maria's eyes widened. My car broke down." The man's gaze flicked to Micah. "And who's this?" The boy said nothing. Maria's heart pounded. She suddenly realized this man was not just anyone. There was a weight to him, a presence she'd only ever seen in magazines or on the news. A billionaire's presence. Stay out of this, the man said to Micah, voice low but commanding. Micah stepped back but didn't leave. His eyes never left Maria's face. Are you okay? The billionaire asked again, softer this time. She nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. Suddenly, the night exploded with a noise that made her jump. A loud crash outside. Micah and the billionaire rushed to the door. Maria struggled to her feet, clutching her belly. The man's phone rang. He answered, eyes darkening. Something's wrong, he muttered. The boy looked at Maria. You need to be safe, now. Maria nodded, breathless. Trust me, Micah said. And then, without warning, the shed's door slammed shut behind them. The night held its breath. What just happened? Why did the billionaire look so tense? And what secret did Micah unknowingly carry, being the one who saved Maria? The answers were buried in the shadows, waiting to unravel. Cliffhanger. Who is Micah really? And why does the billionaire fear him? The cold wind rattled the broken windows of the old shed, whispering secrets that only the night could hear. Inside, tension wrapped the small space like a thick fog. Micah stood near the door, his gaze fixed on the billionaire man who had just entered. David Moreau, Maria's husband, a man whose name alone commanded fear and respect in every corner of the city. Maria's breath came fast. The pain in her belly hadn't stopped, but now a different kind of fear clenched her chest. What was David doing here? Why did he look so tense, so guarded? David's eyes flicked back and forth between Micah and Maria. His jaw tightened, as if fighting a battle inside. Who exactly are you, Micah? David finally asked, voice low but sharp. The boy's dark eyes didn't waver. I'm just someone who was in the right place at the right time. David's gaze hardened. You're more than that. You've been watching us. Micah's shoulders tensed. No, I was just passing by when I saw her car. Maria's heart pounded. She wanted to trust Micah. He had saved her. But David's suspicion was like an invisible cage. Suddenly, the shed door rattled violently. What was that? Maria gasped. David's eyes narrowed. Trouble. Micah moved quickly to the small window, peering into the darkness outside. Two figures emerged from the shadows, men dressed in black, faces obscured by masks. David's lips curled into a grim smile. Looks like you're not safe yet, Maria. Maria's mind raced. She had no idea what was happening, but the danger was real. The baby inside her kicked hard, as if warning her. David turned back to Micah. You're going to help us. No more games. Micah's jaw tightened. Why should I trust you? Because I'm the only one who can keep you alive, David said coldly. Maria felt trapped between two storms, Micah's quiet strength and David's imposing power. The men outside grew louder, banging on the shed walls. David reached into his pocket, pulling out a small pistol. Stay behind me, he ordered. Micah glanced at Maria. Can you walk? She nodded weakly. David opened the door, just as the masked men broke through a side window. Gunshots echoed in the night. Micah ducked behind a wooden crate, heart pounding. Maria clung to David's arm, fear paralyzing her. One of the men lunged toward them, but Micah sprang forward, tackling him to the ground. The fight was brutal and fast. Micah's hands moved with surprising skill, disarming one attacker and pushing the other into a stack of old crates. David fired 2 shots, and the attackers stumbled back, retreating into the night. Breathing hard, David looked at Micah. You're better than I thought. Micah didn't respond. Maria's eyes were wide with shock and confusion. Who were they? She asked. David's face darkened. People who want me dead. Her mind reeled. Why? David hesitated. That's a story for another time. Right now, we need to get you somewhere safe. Micah nodded. I know a place. The drive was tense and silent. Maria leaned back in the passenger seat, exhausted and scared. David's eyes flicked to her in the rearview mirror. You're lucky Micah found you when he did. Maria swallowed, unsure how to feel. Micah sat silently beside. David's hands clenched into fists. Finally, Maria broke the silence. "Why did you help me? Why risk everything?" Micah looked out the window, voice quiet. "Because someone once helped me. When I had nothing, she gave me a chance." David glanced at him, curious. "Who?" Micah's eyes darkened. "My mother." "But she's gone now." David said nothing. The car pulled up to a large, secluded mansion, hidden behind thick trees. "This will keep you safe, for now," David said, unlocking the gates. Maria's heart raced. The house was beautiful but cold. Inside, a nurse hurried to her side, checking her condition. Micah stood by the window, watching the shadows. David approached him quietly. "You're not just a homeless boy, are you?" Micah met his gaze. "No, and neither are you." David's expression flickered. Maria watched the exchange, confused but intrigued. Later that night, Maria lay in a luxurious bedroom, the pain in her belly returning stronger. The nurse held her hand. "We'll take care of you." But Maria couldn't shake the feeling of danger lurking just beyond the walls. She looked out the window and saw Micah standing alone on the lawn, staring into the dark. Who was this boy? Why did his presence unsettle? Her husband, the next morning, brought no answers, only more questions. David called Maria into the study. "This isn't just about your car breaking down," he said firmly. "There are things you don't know, people you've trusted." Maria's hands trembled. "What do you mean?" David's eyes softened for a moment. "Your family's fortune. It's more complicated than you realize." He pulled out a thick envelope filled with documents. "Your father's company is on the brink of collapse because of someone close to you." Maria felt her world shatter. "Someone is trying to ruin us." David looked at her. "And you need to be careful." Micah appeared in the doorway. "Who?" Maria asked, eyes wide. David glanced at Micah, then back to Maria. "That's the secret." That evening, Maria found herself alone in the garden with Micah. The sky was painted with streaks of orange and purple. She swallowed her fear and asked, "Why did you really help me?" Micah looked at her, his voice low. "Because you're not just anyone. You're part of a story I need to understand." Maria frowned. "What story?" Before he could answer, a sudden noise startled them. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward, a woman with cold eyes and a smile that didn't reach her face. "Looks like you made some new friends," she said, voice dripping with venom. Maria's heart froze. The woman's eyes locked on Micah. "You don't belong here," she said sharply. Micah's jaw clenched. Maria realized this was just the beginning of a deeper mystery, one that would shake everything she thought she knew. Cliffhanger. Who is the woman in the shadows, and what does she want with Micah? Would you like me to keep going and write part 3 next, or do you want any adjustments? The garden air was thick with tension. Maria's eyes darted between Micah and the woman who had just stepped out of the shadows like a ghost from the past. She looked to be in her early 30s, dressed in a sleek black coat that matched the sharp edge in her voice. Her eyes were cold, almost cruel, and yet full of recognition as they locked onto Micah. "Who are you?" Maria demanded, stepping protectively closer to the boy. The woman smiled, but it was no kindness in that smile. "I'm someone who knows secrets," she said, voice like ice. "And I don't like strangers interfering." Micah's body tensed, but he didn't back down. "I'm not here to cause trouble," he said quietly. "But I'm not leaving either." Maria felt a surge of admiration. For someone who had once been homeless, Micah was braver than anyone she knew. The woman laughed, a cold sound that echoed in the garden. "You don't understand what you're getting into." Suddenly, David's voice rang out from the house. "Maria, we need to get inside, now." The woman vanished into the shadows as quickly as she had appeared. Maria's heart pounded as she followed David inside, Micah close behind. Inside the mansion, The atmosphere was heavy with unspoken fears. David locked the door behind them and turned to Maria. "That woman is Alexandra." His voice was grave. "She was once close to us, but now she's the enemy." Maria frowned. "Close to us? How?" David sank into a chair, rubbing his temples. "She was my father's trusted advisor until she betrayed us. She's the reason your father's company is falling apart." Maria's mind raced. Why would she do that? David looked at Micah. "She's powerful and ruthless, and she has her eyes on the fortune." Micah remained silent, but Maria noticed the flicker of recognition in his eyes. Later that evening, Maria sat alone in her room, the weight of secrets crushing her. She stared at the ceiling, thinking about Alexandra's sudden appearance and David's warning. Why had Alexandra singled out Micah? And what did Micah really know? Her phone buzzed, a text message from an unknown number. "Trust no one. The truth will hurt." Maria's fingers trembled as she read the words. Her heart pounded harder than ever. Meanwhile, Micah stood in the vast library, tracing his fingers over the spines of old books. David entered quietly. "You're hiding something," David said. Micah met his gaze. "I know Alexandra, more than you think." David's eyes narrowed. "Tell me." Micah took a deep breath. "When I was younger, Alexandra worked with my mother. But when my mother died, Alexandra disappeared. I never knew why." David sat down. "Heavily, your mother worked for us?" Micah nodded. "She was part of the family's secrets. She tried to protect me." David's expression softened. "Then we owe her, and you, the truth." The next day, Maria and Micah found themselves exploring the mansion's hidden corners, searching for clues. In a dusty basement, behind a false wall, they discovered a box filled with old letters and photographs. Maria opened a fragile letter. Hands shaking, it was from Alexandra, addressed to David's father. "The betrayal runs deep. If you cannot trust your own blood, what remains?" Maria looked at Micah, who held a photograph of a young woman, his mother, standing beside Alexandra. "What does this mean?" Maria whispered. Micah's voice was low. "Alexandra betrayed more than just your family." Later, David gathered them in the study. "The truth is darker than we imagined." He handed Maria a file filled with documents. "These papers show that Alexandra's betrayal wasn't just about money. She was involved in a plan to destroy your father's company from the inside." Maria's eyes widened. David continued, "And someone else helped her." Micah's face paled. "Who?" "Maria." David hesitated. "Someone close to you?" Maria's heart froze. That night, Maria lay awake, haunted by the revelations. She couldn't stop thinking about who might be behind Alexandra's plan. Her phone buzzed again. A new message. "Look closer to home." The words echoed in her mind. The next morning, Maria confronted David. "Who do you think it is?" David's eyes were dark. "Someone we all trusted." Micah joined them. "We need to find out before it's too late." The tension in the mansion grew, secrets and lies tangled like vines, suffocating trust. Maria, Micah, and David knew one thing for certain: the danger was closer than they thought, and the truth would come at a high price. Cliffhanger. Who is the trusted betrayer? And how far will Alexandra's plan reach? The grand clock in the mansion's hallway chimed midnight, its echo carrying a hollow weight through the cavernous rooms. Maria stood by the window, staring out into the cold darkness. The moon cast sharp shadows across the garden, as if nature itself was holding its breath. Her mind was a storm of questions and doubts. Who could be the traitor among them? Someone they trusted deeply, yet had been quietly tearing the family apart. From the inside, the message from last night lingered in her thoughts. Look closer to home. But what did that mean? Her phone buzzed again, this time a video. She hesitated, then pressed play. The screen flickered, and her breath caught. It was Alexandra. But this time Alexandra wasn't alone. She stood beside a man Maria recognized instantly. Her own uncle Richard. Maria's hands shook. Richard, always the charming and dependable one, smiling in the video as Alexandra spoke in a cold, cruel voice. Soon, everything your family built will crumble, and we will be the ones to rise. Maria dropped the phone, her mind reeling. Had Richard been working with Alexandra all along? Downstairs, Micah and David were waiting. Maria's face was pale as she showed them the video. David's jaw tightened. So it's true. Richard is the snake in the grass. Micah's eyes flickered with a mix of anger and disbelief. I trusted him. David nodded grimly. We have to act fast before they move against us. The three of them convened in the study, piecing together what they knew. Alexandra's betrayal wasn't just about business. It was personal. She and Richard had plotted for years to take control. David looked at Micah. You said your mother worked with Alexandra. Did she ever warn you about Richard? Micah shook his head slowly. No. But now I wonder if she tried to protect me from knowing too much. Maria's heart ached. The walls seemed to close in around them. The mansion, no longer a sanctuary, but a prison of secrets. That night, Maria couldn't sleep. She wandered into the nursery, touching the soft blanket folded over the crib, her unborn child's room. A surge of determination flooded her. She wouldn't let this darkness destroy her family. She had to find proof, something that would expose Richard and Alexandra once and for all. The next morning, Maria asked David to unlock the private vault in the mansion's basement, a place only the closest family members knew about. David hesitated, but finally nodded. If the truth is down there, we need to find it. The air grew colder as they descended the stairs, the walls closing in with each step. The vault door creaked open, revealing shelves lined with old ledgers, documents, and photographs. Maria's fingers trembled as she sifted through the papers. Then, hidden beneath a pile of dusty folders, she found it. A sealed envelope marked, "To be opened only in the event of betrayal." Her heart pounded as she broke the seal. Inside was a handwritten letter from her father. The letter was raw and desperate. He had suspected a mole for years and had gathered evidence secretly. He wrote of his fear for the family's legacy, warning Maria and David to be cautious. Most chilling was the last line, "Trust no one, especially not those who wear smiles." As Maria read the letter aloud, David's face darkened. We need to find that evidence. Micah suddenly looked uneasy. I think I know where it is. Micah led them to a forgotten room behind the library. Inside was an old desk with a hidden drawer. Micah fumbled with the lock and finally pulled out a thick folder. Inside were documents proving Richard's financial manipulations and secret meetings with Alexandra. There were also recorded conversations, detailing plans to bankrupt the family business and take over. Maria's hands shook as she held the proof. Suddenly, the room plunged into darkness. The lights flickered and went out. A shadow moved near the doorway. Richard stepped inside, a cold smile on his face. "Well done finding my little secrets," he said, voice dripping with menace. Maria stepped forward. "We have proof. It's over." Richard laughed. "You think so? Alexandra and I have more power than you realize." He pulled out his phone. "Look outside." They rushed to the window just in time to see a convoy of black SUVs pull up to the mansion. Alexandra emerged, flanked by men in dark suits. She raised her hand, signaling them. David's eyes narrowed. "They're here to finish this." The mansion erupted into chaos. Doors slammed, footsteps thundered through the halls. Maria grabbed Micah's hand. "We have to protect the baby." David called security, but Alexandra's men overpowered them. Maria and Micah ran through secret passages David revealed to escape. Their hearts pounded as they hid in a narrow corridor, the sounds of confrontation nearby. From their hiding place, Maria whispered, "We can't let them win. We have to fight." Micah nodded. "We will, together." As Alexandra's voice echoed through the mansion, promising destruction and control, Maria felt a spark of hope. They had proof, courage, and each other. The battle for the family's future had only just begun. The hidden corridor was cold and narrow, the only light coming from the faint glow of a cracked window high above. Maria pressed her back against the damp stone wall, heart hammering so loudly she feared the enemies might hear it. Micah's grip on her hand was firm, steady, his presence the only comfort amidst the chaos. They could hear shouting, crashing, footsteps, the metallic clang of something breaking. Alexandra's men were hunting through the mansion, ruthless and unrelenting. Maria swallowed hard, fighting panic. Her unborn child's safety was paramount. She clenched her jaw. "We need a plan," she whispered. Micah nodded. "There's a service tunnel under the west wing. I saw it once when I was helping fix the heating system. We can get out through there." David, bruised but determined, appeared at the corridor entrance, signaling them quickly. "We don't have much time. Alexandra's men are blocking the main exits." Maria glanced at David, then at Micah. "Lead the way." The trio slipped through twisting, dimly lit service tunnels, the air thick with dust and fear. Micah stopped suddenly, motioning for silence. "We're not alone." Ahead, shadows moved. Maria's breath caught. Two figures stepped forward. Security. Guards, loyal to the family. "Thank God," David breathed. They guided Maria and Micah to a concealed exit. Outside, the night was cold, but free. A plan quickly formed. David contacted trusted allies in law enforcement and the company's loyal staff. Alexandra and Richard were trying to seize control, but with proof in hand and outside support, Maria hoped to fight back. Yet the danger was far from over. Days passed in a blur of tension and uncertainty. Maria found solace in quiet moments with Micah, whose steady spirit grounded her. One evening, as the sun set behind the city skyline, Maria's phone buzzed a message from an unknown number. "You're closer than you think to losing everything." She shivered. Alexandra was relentless. Meanwhile, Alexandra met with Richard in a sleek high-rise office overlooking the city. Richard's face was hard. "We underestimated Maria and that boy." Alexandra smiled coldly. "We'll crush them. They won't see it coming." Back at the mansion, Maria pored over the documents again. Her father's legacy was at stake. Her trust had been shattered, but her resolve was stronger than ever. Micah stood beside her. "I won't let you face this alone." Maria looked up, eyes shining. "Thank you, Micah." Their bond had grown beyond circumstance, a partnership forged in adversity. But just as hope flickered, a new betrayal surfaced. David disappeared. His phone went straight to voicemail. Maria's stomach twisted. She called everyone she knew. Finally, a message came from an anonymous source. "David is with Alexandra. He made a deal." Maria's world cracked. How could someone so close betray them? Micah's face was pale, but his voice was steady. "We have to find him, before it's too late." In a tense confrontation at an abandoned warehouse, Maria and Micah confronted David. He looked different, cold, calculating. "Why?" Maria demanded. David's eyes flickered with guilt. "Because I wanted to protect us from the outside. Alexandra promised me safety for the family." Micah stepped forward, anger boiling. "By selling us out?" David's shoulders slumped. "I didn't want this, but I felt trapped." Maria's heart shattered, but she forced herself to stay strong. "We won't let you or Alexandra destroy everything." David nodded slowly, a flicker of regret in his eyes. "I'll help you, but Alexandra will stop at nothing." The final battle was near. Maria, Micah, and David worked together, combining their strengths. They exposed Alexandra and Richard's crimes to the public. The media erupted. Alexandra's empire began to crumble. In the climax, Alexandra tried to flee the country, but was caught at the airport. Richard vanished, his fate uncertain. Maria watched from a distance, the weight of relief and loss heavy on her shoulders. In the quiet aftermath, Maria cradled her newborn baby. She looked at Micah and David, knowing their lives were forever changed. She whispered, "We survived." Micah smiled gently. "Yes, and we found family in the unlikeliest places." The morning sunlight filtered softly through the nursery window, casting a warm glow over the sleeping baby in the crib. Maria sat nearby, gently rocking the chair, her fingers tracing the soft blanket that covered her child. It was a moment she had dreamed of, peace after a storm, hope after darkness. But the battles were not just over outside. They lingered inside her heart. It had been months since Alexandra's arrest and Richard's disappearance. The family business was stabilizing, thanks to David's help and the loyal staff who refused to let the empire collapse. The media frenzy had died down, and the mansion, once a battleground, was slowly becoming a home again. Yet Maria's thoughts often drifted back to Micah, the homeless boy who had saved her life, and whose own life had been transformed by her kindness and trust. One afternoon, as Maria reviewed documents in her office, the door creaked open. Micah stepped inside, his eyes bright but cautious. "I wanted to see how you were doing," he said softly. Maria smiled, standing up to greet him. "You saved my life, Micah. I owe you everything." Micah shook his head. "You gave me a chance. You saw me when no one else did." They stood in silence, the unspoken bond between them stronger than ever. But peace was fragile. A letter arrived, addressed to Maria in an unfamiliar handwriting. She opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a simple note. "The past is never truly gone. Watch your back." A chill ran down her spine. Maria confided in David and Micah. David frowned. "We can't let our guard down." Micah's jaw tightened. Someone from Alexandra's network could still be out there. That night, Maria lay awake, the weight of responsibility pressing on her. Her unborn child was safe now, but the wounds from betrayal and loss still ran deep. She thought about her father's letter, the warning to trust no one. But now, she understood. Sometimes, trusting was the only way to heal. Days later, Maria received unexpected news. Richard had been found, hiding in a small town hundreds of miles away. He was sick, broken and full of regrets. Maria decided to visit him, needing answers to close the final chapter. When she arrived, Richard was a shadow of the man she remembered. His eyes, once full of cunning, now held only sorrow. "I was wrong," he admitted. "I let greed consume me. I betrayed my family." Maria listened quietly. "You destroyed a lot, but we're still here. Because of people like Micah, and because I chose to fight." Richard nodded slowly. "I want to make amends if you'll let me." Maria looked at the man who had caused so much pain and saw not an enemy, but a broken soul seeking redemption. She reached out her hand. "Let's start with the truth." Back home, Maria stood on the balcony, the city lights twinkling below. Micah joined her, handing her a cup of tea. "We've been through so much," he said. Maria smiled softly. "Yes, but we've also found strength in each other." Micah looked at her, eyes sincere. "Thank you for believing in me when no one else did." Maria's voice was steady. "Sometimes losing everything is the only way to find who you really are." The journey had been painful, filled with betrayal, danger, and heartbreak. But through it all, Maria discovered a truth far greater than wealth or power. She found that true family is not just blood or fortune, but the people who stand by you in your darkest hours. And as Maria held her child close, she knew the future was hers to write. Not as a victim of the past, but as a woman reborn, strong, hopeful, and free. The end.